Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 19th. Amazing what a few days of antibiotics will do for your sinus infection. Well, we were talking about this, our Skype chat, the Sigma event that was taking place here on the Power Mode 2, which was indicating to us the rotation transition in the algos. And it wasn't corresponding to what we were seeing on the NASDAQ, but given what we were seeing from a weak DOC reading, which was negative, where we had the green under red here, we also had short-term buyers, the steel below cyan. At this particular point, orange was well above. It expressed negativity, coupled with shakeout that was, modest at best. It just got into the 0 point, so it was a critical area for it. So once the selling started, as I pointed out, we could expect weakness throughout the day. We did break below the ABM, and like I just mentioned prior to that, below the ABM, you want to be thinking more to the weak side, except for now we're seeing a little pop-up here of short-term buyers with the orange fading a bit. If the orange does continue to dip, it will produce a new buy all the way up here at the peak levels. We still have negative shakeout in that, so I would expect that to just play back and forth within the support ranges, but again, it was pretty clean when we put the ABM yellows since it's covered by price. It's at 39.1975 at this particular point, so we're about just under 5 points below. From an NQ standpoint, it was already in that negative where we had the rejection right here without a reset of the steel coming at least within the one range of 0. Never quite got down there, so when that happens, it usually presents weakness. And again, here was easy because it's 50% mark. Anything below that definitely going to be soft. And the NASDAQ has been recalibrating lower in general relative to the S&P anyway. So we'd already seen that. From the gold buys, just stagnating here. We're up to 23%. It's improvement, but that shakeout is still horrible too. Finally getting above the negative 13.5, so there's potential to break above the 23%. That'll have some more legs to it, but with that rejection right here, steel continues to drop. We look for it to just fill back in. It does have to dip below the red line down here to fill back in, so I would not be surprised to see that retest. Down at the lows, and of course the euro. We've talked about the artificially elevated euro and the reasons for it. With the U.S. stimulus, but of course the Eurozone's going to have to do a similar effect because they're in a world of hurt, especially with their continued lockdowns. If we look at where we are currently, post-market here, a lot of short signals that came through there, the most recent one being this DOC spread that started right at the peak. And you've got steel from a complete reset standpoint, but no turn back up above. Finally started to do that after the dip all the way back down to 39.10. But if we go back, there were a couple of interesting things that took place during the day. We were talking about this orange candle when it came in, and I was pointing out that when you have this no reset setup going on for a while, what we had was the dip here, but you didn't get the orange within a reasonable 5-bar range to promote a power move that would be justifiable as far as running away with it. So from my standpoint, as soon as you get the rejection of green to cyan, which literally took place right after it happened, and that is something that's going to take place because this legitimately could produce the turnaround. It just didn't do it. You knew it within the next bar, so that meant already that you were going to have difficulties with that one. Sure enough, it went all the way back down to the lows and really had trouble from that point for quite a while until we started to build up some improvement, which literally took place right up here where you did get the dip. In this case, the orange did not quite dip below red, but it had dipped below the green, and then the green overtook it, in which case, once the green was over to cyan at that point, that's what led to the conversion. These are some of the updates that I'm doing within the code for the Diacon Paint 2. But every time we produced reasonable short signal, this magenta candle that took place right here was really within this just general soft zone. We got no support from the magenta coming up for a crossover on a dip, and that's why it pretty much held its own and then once it dipped below, started the new trend. Didn't take long for that to fade though. Once we got a clean DOC right up here at the peak, everything rolled over. You had green cross below. You'd already had the orange jump over the steel. When you get that kind of situation where it's a reset, I'm a little skeptical because I'm looking for, as soon as the steel crosses, is it going to continue and move across orange? And usually when that does, I'm looking for the turnaround. In this case, I marked it pretty cleanly with that dip right here, which is the yellow line. Actually, should have vertical right there. And that should be yellow. And that produced the pump up, but then we ended up later part of the day, and I mentioned this one, same situation. Yes, the spikes above the 13.5 can produce a little bit of a move because it's the effect of it coming back over, but once it dips back down, you end up with the same problem. So same situation in this yellow, you don't have it, and then as the steel starts to fade, you have that moment where green meets cyan, and you expect to see that push through, and in this particular case did not happen. So as soon as the rejection came, you can wait for the steel to cross the cyan, which literally happens within the next bar, but you did get the activation, and that indicated that we were going to have further decline. And so that was, it's helpful in knowing that while these buys are legitimate and no question about it, especially off of P2, and that it can have it, but what they get in this particular case is overwhelming amount of selling that takes place within it, and it just overwhelms the algo longs, and that usually is going to produce a new low because you've had the buildup of these guys getting caught the wrong direction, and they'll fight back, but it just led to ultimately the new lows that brought us down to the bottom. That we had enough dips down here that finally retraced, but then it was just sort of muddled in between there. And we had plenty of little DOC spreads that are like these modest ones where you're not getting a matching strong crossover, at least where the orange is popping up stronger, became a little bit more significant as we got a little bit over into this space, but you can see how short-lived that was, and it flipped around until we got this much cleaner setup where you had the clean setup. The problem with this one, again, you had that steel crossover below, so many bars back. So it was kind of what I call a misalignment, where it's not all happening together, because if they were happening in uniformity, then you'd have a consistency with it, and that would produce a different result of a little bit steeper decline. So worth knowing that information. As always, though, I will update details on Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.